Ethan Marks leaned back on the worn metal bench at Orvax 9 spaceport, unwrapping the only food he had for the day, a plain sandwich. The bustling sounds of the port filled the air, ships docking with loud metallic clangs, the chatter of merchants, and the occasional announcement over the loudspeaker. Despite the chaos, Ethan found a quiet corner near the edge of the port, where he could eat without bumping into too many travelers. He took a bite and let out a small sigh, tasting the bland bread and thin slice of protein. Life as a cargo pilot on the fringe planets wasn't luxurious, but it paid enough to survive. Most days were the same: deliver cargo, avoid trouble, and hope the next shipment went smoothly. Yet, for all its monotony, he liked it. There was a freedom in flying across the stars, a sense that the galaxy was larger than any one human worry. Ethan's thoughts were interrupted when someone bumped into him from the side. He looked up to see a young woman, slender and graceful, staggering slightly from the impact. She had soft, pale skin that almost shimmered under the artificial lights of the port, and her dark, almond-shaped eyes were wide with apology. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she said in a voice that was gentle but carried a strange confidence. "It's fine," Ethan replied, standing quickly. He noticed she seemed unsteady, perhaps exhausted from travel. Without thinking, he tore his sandwich in half. "Here, take this," he said, offering her the piece. The woman hesitated for a moment, clearly surprised by the gesture. Then she smiled, small but warm, and accepted it. Their fingers brushed briefly, and Ethan felt an odd tingle, though he couldn't place why. "Thank you," she said softly. "I didn't expect such kindness here." There was something unusual about her, something he couldn't quite identify. "I'm Ethan," he said finally, holding out his hand. She looked at it, then hesitated before taking it lightly. "I'm Amira," she replied. They shook hands, and in that brief touch, Ethan had the strangest feeling that this encounter was more than chance. But he pushed the thought away, focusing instead on the simplicity of sharing a meal with a stranger. For the next few minutes, they ate in companionable silence, watching the activity of the port. Traders hustled to sell exotic goods, small ships zipped between landing pads, and a group of children, humans and aliens alike, played a game that involved hopping over cargo crates. Despite the hubbub, there was a strange sense of peace in that corner. Finally, Ethan spoke. "You new around here." "Is that a compliment or an insult?" Several port workers shouted and gestured frantically at a small crowd gathered near a cargo bay. Ethan turned to see a group of pirates, scruffy, armed, and clearly aggressive, arguing with local security. The tension was immediate, sharp, and dangerous. Amira noticed too, her eyes narrowing slightly. "Do they always behave like this?" she asked. "Unfortunately, yes," Ethan said, rising to his feet. He had seen trouble like this many times before. These fringe ports attract the kind of people who think rules don't apply to them. He had spent years learning to navigate dangerous situations, and his instincts told him this could escalate quickly. "You don't need to get involved," Amira said quietly, almost too calmly. Ethan glanced at her, surprised by the serenity in her voice. "Maybe, but I can't just watch people get hurt, not if I can help." A few other travelers followed him cautiously, sensing that he knew what he was doing. He shouted over the noise, trying to calm the situation. "Hey, this isn't the place for fighting. Step back." He moved strategically, positioning himself between the aggressors and the civilians, his voice firm and steady. Amira watched, noting every movement, every choice he made. There was a remarkable clarity in the way he assessed the danger, a balance between courage and caution. It was rare, she realized, to see a human act with such instinctive leadership under pressure. After several tense moments, the port's security managed to regain control, forcing the pirates to retreat. The crowd dispersed, murmuring among themselves about the bravery of the human who had stepped in. Ethan wiped the sweat from his brow, breathing heavily but smiling. Amira approached him, her expression thoughtful. "You handled that well," she said. "I just did what needed to be done," Ethan replied modestly. "Anyone else would have done the same." He wasn't used to compliments, especially from strangers, and certainly not from someone who seemed so composed. For a moment they stood together in silence, the hum of the spaceport filling the gap. Then Amira tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "You have a kind heart, Ethan Marks. It shows in small things, the sandwich, your willingness to help. Those are qualities not many possess. You would be surprised what humans can teach someone who looks beyond appearances." Hours passed, and Ethan found himself walking with Amira through the quieter sections of the port. They spoke of trivial things at first: favorite foods, preferred routes for travel. but gradually the conversation deepened. He found himself sharing stories of frontier life, of lonely nights in small, dusty towns, of the small triumphs that kept humans moving forward despite the harsh realities of space. Emira listened intently, occasionally asking questions that revealed her sharp mind and keen understanding of strategy. Ethan noted that, despite her youth, there was a wisdom in her observations that went beyond what any human he knew possessed. "Humans are interesting," she said quietly at one point, as they stopped near a small observation deck overlooking the landing pads. "You adapt, you improvise, you survive where others fail, and yet you do not always seek power for its own sake. That is admirable." He didn't fully understand why, but there was a weight to them, as if they carried a hidden truth he had yet to grasp. As the sun set over Orvax 9, casting long shadows across the port, Ethan realized he had spent the entire day with a stranger who seemed unlike anyone he had ever met. Yet he felt an unusual comfort in her presence, as if meeting her was meant to happen. Finally, Emira spoke, breaking the silence. "I must continue my journey soon, but I hope we will meet again." He had no idea that the woman he had shared a sandwich with, the woman who had smiled at his simple act of kindness, was not just a traveler, but someone who governed an entire galaxy. For now, it was just another ordinary day at Orvax 9, yet Ethan sensed that nothing would ever truly be ordinary again. And somewhere across the stars, Emira watched from a discreet distance, thinking about the human who had shown her a glimpse of courage, kindness, and ingenuity, a human she would not soon forget. Ethan awoke the next morning to the usual hum of activity at Orvax 9 spaceport. The sunlight filtering through the high, reinforced windows cast long stripes across the walls, illuminating the dusty floors and bustling walkways. Despite the chaos, Ethan felt a quiet anticipation lingering from the previous day. The encounter with the mysterious young woman, Emira, had left an impression he could not shake. He packed his belongings and stepped out into the market area of the port. Merchants hawked strange alien fruits and electronics, travelers hurried past with bulky luggage, and a small group of children chased one another around stacked crates, their laughter echoing through the corridors. It was an ordinary morning, yet the air seemed heavier, charged with unseen possibility. Ethan grabbed a quick breakfast at a corner vendor and headed toward the docking bays. There his cargo freighter sat waiting, its hull scratched from years of use but otherwise reliable. As he climbed the steps into the cockpit, he noticed movement at the far end of the bay. Emira was there, standing near a shuttle as though she belonged. She looked up and smiled faintly when she saw him. "Good morning," she said, her voice calm and warm. "Morning," Ethan replied, trying to hide his nervousness. "I didn't expect to see you again so soon." Nothing remarkable there. For him, it was just survival, and helping others seemed natural. He shrugged. "I guess that's just how humans are. We try to do what's right when we can." Unauthorized boarding detected. Security breach imminent. "I see the situation is escalating," she said quietly, almost as if she had expected it. Ethan ran toward the main cargo area, assessing the chaos. A small group of armed pirates had appeared near the entrance, their uniforms ragged, their weapons primitive but effective. They were moving quickly, spreading out to intimidate the port's workers and travelers. "Everyone stay calm," Ethan shouted, raising his voice to be heard over the alarm. "Get to safety and follow my lead." She had the ability to act decisively, to eliminate the threat in seconds if she wished, but she did not. Instead, she allowed Ethan to take the lead, curious to see how humans handled a threat when the odds were against them. Ethan quickly assessed the layout. Crates stacked in the middle of the cargo area provided cover, and narrow corridors could funnel the pirates into predictable paths. He motioned to the volunteers following him. "Use the crates for cover. Stay low. If anyone tries to get past, hold them off until I can get reinforcements." He moved toward a narrow corridor where a pirate had begun advancing, and with a quick maneuver he toppled a crate, forcing the pirate to stumble. A few more crates slid into position, creating temporary barricades. Emira watched with interest. Humans, she realized, were not strong like some other species she had encountered. They lacked natural weapons, and their technology was often crude. Yet they compensated with something remarkable: creativity and adaptability. Ethan glanced around, noticing the fear in the eyes of the volunteers. He knelt and whispered to one young worker, "Stick with me. Watch what I do and do the same. Don't panic. We can get through this." Even in the smallest frontier port, humans could rise to the challenge, showing courage in the face of overwhelming odds. The pirates advanced, but Ethan anticipated their moves, directing the volunteers with precise commands. They set up simple traps, loose crates that fell when pushed, pulleys that dumped containers onto corridors, and barricades that slowed the intruders. Each action bought time and kept the pirates from reaching the civilians. Emira's curiosity deepened. This pilot was not just reacting. He was leading, teaching, and inspiring others to act beyond themselves. There was a strength here that went beyond physical power, a combination of mind, heart, and instinct. As the confrontation continued, one of the pirates tried to flank the group from the side corridor. Ethan noticed immediately. Without hesitation, he sprinted across the open space, using a crate for cover, and confronted the intruder. A short struggle ensued, but Ethan's careful timing and quick thinking allowed him to disarm the pirate without serious injury. "Got him," Ethan called to the volunteers. "Keep moving, we're almost there." "You are remarkable under pressure." "That is rare." The volunteers cheered quietly, grateful for their safety and for the guidance of a single human who had taken charge when no one else could. Emira stepped closer, her eyes studying him intently. "You understand something that many species do not. You value life, even in the smallest of forms. You act not for glory or recognition, but because it is the right thing to do." That is human nature at its finest. Ships were taking off and landing, and the sunset cast brilliant orange and red hues across the horizon. The moment felt peaceful after the chaos, yet Ethan knew it was temporary. Life on the frontier was never truly safe. "You handled yourself well," Emira said softly. "I have observed many species, many leaders, but humans, you are unpredictable, resourceful, and resilient." "It is admirable." For a long time, they watched the activity of the spaceport together. Ethan felt a strange sense of connection, as if this encounter with Emira was only the beginning of something much larger than he could imagine. Finally, she spoke again. "I will continue my journey soon, but I will remember today. You remind me why humans, though small in the galaxy, are capable of great things." As night fell, Ethan returned to his small quarters, thinking about the day's events. Pirates, volunteers, unexpected leadership, and the enigmatic woman who had watched him. It had been exhausting, but for the first time in a long time, he felt that perhaps there was something extraordinary about ordinary humans after all. Somewhere above Orvax 9, Emira's shuttle lifted quietly into orbit. She gazed at the planet below, thinking about the pilot who had demonstrated courage, intelligence, and kindness. She knew that humans were underestimated across the galaxy, and yet they had potential that could not be ignored. And for Ethan Marks, the day that had begun with a simple sandwich had transformed into a lesson in bravery, ingenuity, and the quiet power of humanity. The next morning, Orvax 9 spaceport was unusually quiet. The sun rose over the horizon, casting long shadows across the metal walkways and docking bays. Ethan Marks walked through the port, carrying a small bag of supplies for his next cargo run. Despite the peaceful appearance, he could feel tension lingering in the air. Yesterday's pirate attack had left its mark, and the port's residents were still on edge. Ethan's thoughts drifted to Emira. He remembered her calm, confident presence, the way she had watched him handle the pirates. He had no idea who she really was, but there was something extraordinary about her. He shook his head, focusing on the tasks ahead. There were shipments to prepare, cargo to load, and schedules to meet. Life on the frontier did not wait for contemplation. As he approached the main docking bay, a commotion caught his attention. A fleet of sleek, heavily armed ships had arrived without warning. They hovered above the port, their engines creating a low, ominous hum. Ethan's stomach sank. These were not ordinary patrols. They were enforcers of the Galactic government, tasked with maintaining order across countless worlds. A voice boomed over the port's speakers. "Attention all personnel. This planet is under investigation for harboring unauthorized activity. All residents are to comply with inspection procedures immediately." Unauthorized activity? The pirates from yesterday. Surely they were gone now. He glanced around and saw panic spreading among the port's workers and travelers. People hurried to comply, but confusion and fear were evident in their movements. Emira appeared beside him, her expression calm but serious. "They are here because of yesterday," she said softly. "They believe the attack indicates organized resistance. You must be careful. Humans are underestimated, but their scrutiny is precise. The galaxy is not always forgiving to those who stand out." Soldiers in polished armor moved swiftly, scanning the area and questioning port officials. Their leader, a tall figure with a stern expression, approached Ethan directly. "You," the enforcer said, pointing at him. "You were involved in the defense against the intruders. Identify yourself." "I helped protect the port from pirates." "Your actions are noted. You will come with us for questioning." Amira's presence carried weight, though Ethan could not understand why. Her calm, commanding tone seemed to hold the situation in balance, but the enforcer still hesitated. "You may proceed," she continued, her eyes meeting Ethan's briefly. "But act with caution. Attention like this is rarely without consequence." He had no idea how far-reaching this situation would become. Once the enforcers moved on, Amira guided Ethan to a quieter part of the port. "The galaxy watches humans carefully," she said. "Not because you are weak, but because you are unpredictable. Your choices matter more than you realize." "I never imagined it would reach this level." Crates were stacked haphazardly, walls bore scratches from skirmishes, and a few small fires smoldered in corners, quickly extinguished by port workers. Despite the damage, there was a sense of resilience here. Humans, he realized, always found a way to recover, to rebuild, and to continue. Amira led him to a small observation deck overlooking the docking bays. From here, they could see the enforcers preparing to depart. Ethan noticed the precision in their movements, their disciplined coordination. In contrast, humans relied on improvisation and adaptability. Both methods were effective in their own way, but Amira seemed to value the human approach more. "You understand strategy, Ethan," she said quietly. "Not because of training or technology, but because of instinct and intelligence. You see the possibilities, not just the immediate danger. That is why you survived yesterday and why you will continue to do so." But Amira's perspective made him realize that human qualities, courage, empathy, ingenuity, were rare in the galaxy. Suddenly, a new problem arose. A group of pirates, remnants from yesterday's attack, had regrouped nearby, taking advantage of the confusion caused by the enforcers. They were lightly armed but determined. Ethan's heart raced. He had just faced them once, but now, with the enforcers gone, he knew it would be up to him and the port's volunteers again. "We have to act," Ethan said. "We can't let them take control. People's lives are at stake." Humans can surprise even the most advanced civilizations. But Ethan anticipated their movements, directing his team with precision. They used distractions, cover, and unexpected tactics to slow the attackers. A makeshift alarm system, metal sheets tied to strings, alerted the defenders of incoming threats. Amira watched silently, impressed. Humans, she thought, were remarkable. They lacked advanced weaponry and fleets, yet they compensated with creativity, courage, and unity. Their strength was not in dominance, but in resilience and ingenuity. One pirate tried to sneak behind a barricade, but Ethan noticed immediately. He signaled to a volunteer, who blocked the corridor while Ethan moved to flank the intruder. With careful timing, they disarmed the pirate and secured the area. "Keep moving," Ethan shouted. "Don't give them a chance." When the last pirate fled, Ethan's group cheered quietly. They were exhausted but relieved. The port was safe for now. Amira approached Ethan, her eyes reflecting admiration. "You did not just defend a port," she said. "You demonstrated what humans are capable of when united and guided by intelligence. That is why the galaxy must never underestimate you." "I just did what needed to be done. Anyone else could have done the same." And yet he had learned something new. Even ordinary humans could influence events far beyond their understanding, simply by acting with integrity, courage, and intelligence. Amira watched from a distance, thinking about the implications. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, yet here was one who had proven their potential in a way that no one else had. She wondered how many others like him existed, and what impact they might have if given the chance. Ethan returned to his quarters that night, tired but proud. He had faced danger, guided others, and survived. More importantly, he had begun to realize that humans, even in small frontier ports, were capable of extraordinary things. And somewhere in the stars above, Amira was taking note, quietly observing a species that could one day change the balance of the galaxy. The following morning, Orvax 9's spaceport seemed calm, but Ethan Marks knew better. The previous day's events, the pirate attacks and the arrival of the Galactic enforcers, had left the port on edge. Vendors whispered among themselves, travelers moved cautiously, and security personnel patrolled with heightened awareness. Ethan moved through the bustling walkways, carrying a small crate of supplies for his cargo freighter. He could feel the tension in the air, a sense that something larger was looming, though he could not yet name it. He spotted Amira near the observation deck. She had arrived quietly as she always did, but this time there was a seriousness in her eyes that caught his attention. As he approached, she smiled faintly, though it did not reach her eyes. "Good morning," Ethan said. "You're here early. There are matters you must understand, matters that go beyond this port. That is why I am speaking to you now. I am Amira Selvan, ruler of a galactic empire. I govern countless worlds, and I have the power to change the course of entire civilizations. Yet I travel incognito, observing, learning, and understanding. And today I wish to show you something important. And yet here with you I am simply Amira, a traveler learning about humans. That is how I have observed you. Your actions are genuine, not influenced by my presence or status. That is why I wanted to speak with you privately." He had shared a sandwich with this woman, watched her observe him during dangerous encounters, and now he realized the full scope of who she was. And yet, despite her power, she had chosen to remain with him, learning from him, valuing his humanity. "Why me?" he asked again, more softly this time. "Why would someone like you care about a human like me? Humans, in their simplicity and ingenuity, offer something different: hope, resilience, and unexpected strength." Before he could respond, a new alert echoed through the port. Lights flashed, and a warning announced, "Unidentified vessels approaching Orvax 9. All personnel remain in position. Prepare for potential hostile engagement. Observe and act wisely." Unlike the pirates, these ships were disciplined, coordinated, and clearly trained for precision strikes. Ethan assessed the situation, noting the likely paths they would take and the vulnerabilities they might exploit. He turned to Amira. "We need a plan. I can't just react this time. We have to be ready before they arrive. Humans are underestimated, yet your creativity can be formidable. I will assist, but subtly, without revealing my identity." It was not advanced technology, but it could create a significant deterrent if used strategically. As the first wave of enemy ships approached, Ethan gave the order. Volunteers triggered noise devices and visual decoys, confusing the attackers and disrupting their formation. The makeshift cannon fired at precise intervals, forcing the vessels to adjust their approach. Each action was calculated, coordinated, and executed with human ingenuity. Amira observed silently, impressed. Humans were not physically dominant, nor did they have the firepower of advanced civilizations. Yet their adaptability, problem-solving, and courage made them unpredictable and formidable. Ethan's leadership turned ordinary humans into an effective force, able to confront challenges that should have overwhelmed them. The attackers, frustrated and unable to anticipate human tactics, began to make mistakes. They underestimated the volunteers' ability to act strategically, their movements slow and hesitant. Ethan seized these opportunities, directing countermeasures that disrupted the invaders further. At one point, a small ship attempted to flank the defensive perimeter. Ethan noticed immediately. Using a series of crates, ropes, and mechanical levers, he created a trap that slowed the vessel's movement and forced it into a predictable path. Volunteers guided the ship into a narrow corridor where it was immobilized temporarily. "Excellent work," Ethan shouted, encouraging his team. "Stay focused, every move counts." She realized that human strength lay not in raw power, but in their ability to adapt, innovate, and persevere. The engagement continued for several tense hours. Ethan's team managed to hold off the attackers, using human creativity, courage, and coordination to outmaneuver superior technology. Civilians were kept safe, the port remained largely intact, and the enemy was forced to retreat. When the last ship fled, Ethan sank to the ground, exhausted but triumphant. Volunteers cheered quietly, their gratitude evident in their eyes. They had faced a threat far beyond what they had expected, yet they had prevailed. Amira approached him, her expression a mixture of admiration and contemplation. "You have done more than defend a port," she said softly. "You have demonstrated what humanity can achieve when guided by intelligence, courage, and unity. That is why I have observed you so closely. And it matters." For the first time, he understood that humans, though ordinary in appearance, could achieve extraordinary things when united and determined. Amira watched from a discreet distance, contemplating the implications. Humans were underestimated across the galaxy, yet here was one who had proven their potential in a way few others could. She considered what role humans might play in the larger events of the galaxy, their ingenuity and courage offering possibilities that could change the future. Ethan returned to his quarters that night, weary but proud. The events of the day had tested him in ways he had never imagined, yet he had emerged stronger, wiser, and more aware of humanity's potential. And somewhere above the stars, Emira took note, quietly observing a species that could one day challenge expectations, reshape systems, and redefine what it meant to be truly capable. The morning sun rose over Orvax 9, painting the spaceport in shades of gold and orange. The port, once threatened by pirates and enforcers, now buzzed with a quiet determination. Ethan Marks walked through the docking bays, feeling a sense of calm that had been missing for days. He had survived attacks, led volunteers, and helped defend the port. But today, he sensed that something different awaited him, a moment that could change more than just his own life. Emira appeared at the observation deck, as always, her presence calm yet commanding. Her eyes met Ethan's, and he noticed an unusual seriousness in her expression. She had always admired his courage and ingenuity, but today there was something more, an opportunity she had been waiting for. "Good morning, Ethan," she said softly. "Today I wish to show you the true scope of what your actions mean." "What do you mean?" "I wish to formally acknowledge that. You have shown that humans, even on a small frontier planet, possess these qualities in abundance. Emira Selvon, your actions in observing and guiding frontier human activity have been noted. The Council requests your presence, along with the human pilot, Ethan Marks, for recognition and discussion of his achievements. Yes, you have shown what humanity can achieve when allowed to act freely, with intelligence and heart. This is significant." They boarded a small shuttle, Emira piloting it personally. As they left Orvax 9 behind, Ethan looked out the window at the planet below. It had survived, it had endured, and humans had proven that courage and ingenuity could triumph even against overwhelming odds. The journey to the council chambers was smooth, though tension filled the cabin. Ethan felt small, but Emira's presence was reassuring. "Remember," she said quietly, "humans have a strength that is often overlooked. Today you will show it to the galaxy." Yet he stood tall, determined to act with the same integrity he had shown on Orvax 9. Emira led him forward. "Honorable representatives," she began, her voice carrying authority and respect. "I present to you a human who has demonstrated remarkable courage, intelligence, and leadership. Ethan Marks of Orvax 9 embodies qualities that all civilizations should recognize and learn from. All I can say is that humans can adapt, we can think creatively, and we care for one another. That's what makes us strong." Ethan's actions are not isolated. They are evidence of what humans can achieve when given freedom, trust, and responsibility. The galaxy underestimates humans at its own peril. Yet here he stood, a representative of their courage, their intelligence, and their heart. After a long deliberation, the Council formally recognized Ethan for his actions and acknowledged humans as a species worthy of respect and trust. They commended his ingenuity, leadership, and ethical decision-making under pressure. More importantly, they acknowledged that humanity's potential extended far beyond what had been assumed, a true HFY moment. Once the ceremony ended, Ethan and Emira returned to the observation deck of their shuttle. Silence stretched between them for a moment, comfortable and reflective. "You see now," Emira said quietly, "humans are capable of extraordinary things. Not because you seek power or fame, but because you act with heart, reason, and courage. That is why you are important." The pirates, the enforcers, the defensive strategies, and the council recognition. It had all been a journey of proving that humanity, even in small ways, could influence events on a galactic scale. He realized that ordinary humans, when guided by intelligence and heart, could achieve the extraordinary. When they landed, the port welcomed them with cheers. Volunteers, civilians, and even the few remaining traders gathered, celebrating their survival and newfound recognition. Ethan felt a surge of pride, not in himself alone, but in what humans could achieve together. Emira stepped beside him. "You have shown the best of your species," she said. "And now the galaxy will know it too, but remember, it is not the recognition that matters. It is the courage, ingenuity, and heart you show every day that truly counts. Perhaps one day, humans will influence the galaxy in ways no one has yet imagined." The galaxy above remained vast and unpredictable, yet humanity, small and clever, had earned its place. Ethan took a bite, thinking about all he had learned. Humans were resilient, creative, and brave, not because they sought glory, but because they acted with integrity and heart. That was their strength, and that strength had changed the course of a small frontier port, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Emira looked at him, her eyes reflecting the stars. "You have done more than defend a port, Ethan. You have shown the galaxy what humans can be. That is the greatest achievement of all." He had never sought greatness, never imagined that a simple act of kindness, offering a sandwich, could lead to something so profound. Yet here he was, sitting with a galactic leader, sharing a moment of understanding and respect that transcended species, power, and distance. And in that quiet moment under the stars of Orvax 9, Ethan realized something fundamental. Humanity, in all its simplicity and complexity, was capable of shaping the galaxy through courage, ingenuity, and heart. The port, the planet, and even the distant stars seemed to echo this truth. Humans had been underestimated for too long. But now, through the actions of one ordinary man and the witness of a galactic leader, the galaxy had glimpsed the extraordinary. Ethan took another bite of his sandwich, sharing a smile with Emira. The galaxy was vast, full of danger, opportunity, and uncertainty. Yet for the first time, he felt that humanity could face it with confidence, creativity, and courage. And somewhere above, the stars shone a little brighter, as if acknowledging that a small, ordinary species had begun its journey toward something truly remarkable.